These wonderful folks just finished their talk here in Cannes, and so we're going to ask them a few questions so that we can, pass along the insights to you. So, Jonathan, we're going to begin with you. Why did you choose to talk about the erotics of branding here and now at this point in time in kind of the development of our industry?
Well, because really being one of the few design representatives here, I wanted to talk about how desire could be created through design. And design is a very big word these days, and it can mean how it can be the organizing principles of how a company or a brand sorts itself out from the beginning. It can be how a product feels and interacts in your hand, and it can also be about a strategy and a pathway for solving problems. And because desire is ultimately kind of a very powerful emotion that we want to be sort of talking about, and what Esther does in her lives is equip the couples that she works with the tools and, if you like, in my word vocabulary, design strategies to improve things, to create desire where maybe it's kind of been lost. I felt there were similarities that we could maybe join forces on to really kind of bring to life the idea of the importance of desire over and above love, not excluding love, as a theme for us to be discussing under the title of the erotics of branding.
That's great. And speaking of some of those parallels, maybe Esther, you can give us an idea of what some of the parallels are between, human relationships and those relationships that come between humans and brands.
So I think that one of the essential changes that are taking place is that for a long time in committed relationships, marriages, long-term relationships, what held them together, the platform, had to do with responsibility, loyalty, duty, obligation, and the needs of the collective. The shift has taken place towards individuality, individual needs, free choice, personal fulfillment, happiness. When you look at brands, everybody's talking about how it's no longer enough to just put yourself out there and hope that you tell people what they need and they will follow you and they will remain forever loyal to you because you caught them early on and they never wondered what else is out there. Today, in modern relationship, desire is at the core of commitment. I mean, it kind of links itself together. We don't divorce because we are unhappy. We divorce because we could be happier. We don't leave a brand because we don't love the brand anymore. We leave the brand because we suddenly got drawn and attracted and curious about another one. And so this notion of desire as a life force, as a charge, as a magnet that makes relationships thrive, that makes you come back for more, is organizing modern love as much as it is organizing brand relationships. Not to compare people with brands, but to compare some of the principles that are governing these two sets of relationships, I think is actually very contemporary.
Yeah, and Jonathan, I think design is a big factor in that. So how does increased desirability manifest itself in design, especially?
Well, as I already mentioned, design can be interpreted in a number of different ways, and I think the important thing is that in this age of experience that we're living in, and how humans are actively seeking experiences to feel alive and to feel connected in all aspects of life, brands play a role in that. And a brand can't really kind of create a cohesive experience unless it thinks about how that works together in a cohesive kind of way. So design, I think, as advertising and communication has really sort of morphed and become something so much more soundbite driven and short term and immediate. Design has actually got a role in terms of kind of thinking about things in a big holistic kind of way and to create something of meaning and substance that endures through time. And ultimately, it depends how good you think and how powerful your imagination is with design to actually create powerful and overriding desire. And I have heard now for a decade or so about the importance of brand love, and that is true. Brand love is important, but we've been talking about how love is a sort of a stable force, and desire is something so much more fluid And brands need to be continually thinking about how they consciously design to create desire. It's no good to stand still. If you're a brand that rests on your laurels, you will become a dinosaur. Think brands like BlackBerry and Nokia, technology brands that were at the cutting edge of what it was in the 90s and are now nowhere in our lives and have been replaced by other smart tech brands which are giving us designed experiences that really make our lives much better. They make us live a much better life, and that is really, I think, one of the powerful defining characteristics of design is to make things better. So on this final point about experience, it doesn't have to be a Burning Man scale kind of experience that we're talking about. It can be a tiny, small experience. It can be how, for example, a package opens in the hands of an old person, and they understand that package has been easy to open. It can be, an amazing community-driven event which connects everyone together around a social cause, or it could be as simply as something like ordering an Uber and having a seamless kind of experience of ordering a car. It arrives for you and it gets you to A to B with no fuss at all. These are the types of experiences that we can design for to create desire.
So, interestingly, you asked me about parallels between human relationships and brand relationships. I would say definitely we are in the age of experience, in the sense that if you look at traditional marriage, it was a production economy. If you look at a larger culture, it was a production economy, and we have shifted to a service economy. We used to marry and have multiple children so they can work the land, so we can have economic assets. We marry today, in the West anyway, for communications, for connection, for intimacy, for sex, for equality, for intellectual partnership, for a best friend. These are services, and we want to experience these experiences with our partner. So that's one parallel. And then the second one, which I think is even more powerful, is that I know what I want to experience, but how do I know with whom? How do I know I found the right person to experience it with, or the right brand to experience it with? So I have much more choice than I ever had, but I also have the paradox of choice. I have the novelty and the playfulness that comes from a myriad of promiscuity, swiping left, swiping right, for people, for brands, it's the same. But at the same time, I also have the insecurity and the uncertainty and the self-doubt that comes from not knowing, have I chosen the right one? Because I could have a bad case of FOMO and wonder, how do I know there's not a better one elsewhere? A better partner, a better person, a better brand that I haven't yet found. So I won't commit myself too much, because who knows what else I can get. So paradox of choice, era of experience, centrality of desire are three essential similarities today regulating brand relationships and people relationships.
That's great. And speaking of that, what are some of the characteristics or traits that brands can then exude to become that irresistible force, where maybe even if there was some love before for somebody else, all of a sudden, consumers feel inclined to make the switch? So,
if you look at love or tradition, it's the same idea. You look at something that is stable, consistent, long-lasting, tame, sometimes more secure. If you look and wants to know the beloved, right? Wants to neutralize the tensions. If you look at desire, you're looking at the space between me and you. In here lies the erotic elan, because I want to come and meet you. I'm curious about you. I want to explore you. I want to discover you. I want to penetrate you. I want to change you, and I want to be changed by how I affect you. And this energy of desire that thrives on the unknown, on the elusive, on the mystery, on the transgressive, on the innovative, on the playful, those essential elements that fuel desire that everybody has understood is about eroticism is actually also what brands will do today when they keep me engaged. A brand that keeps me engaged with anticipation. I don't know what the next Apple product is going to be like. Will it be similar to the one before? Will it be something completely different? I'm taken into a room, I'm waiting for 40 days, I'm talked about the unveiling, I am so excited, I have my imagination which is allowing me to see things that are not really there so that I can anticipate, and I am completely in the realm of desire. So brands who know to cultivate anticipation, who know to cultivate my curiosity, who know to cultivate novelty, but at the same time not too much, because I still am connected to what I like and what I'm familiar with, and know how to straddle my need for safety and my need for adventure. my need for transparency and my need for mystery will really capture the human desire.
That's great. But Jonathan, how do you then communicate such transgression and mystery and all of these, kind of big and heavy words to clients?
Well, I think ultimately the word we are talking about is desire. So I think you have to focus on that. And at a simple level, companies and brands need to maybe be thinking about how can they consciously create that through the way that they design their products and their experiences. And I would say some of the most successful companies are the ones where that is understood at a CEO level, where it is driven through the company. Maybe it was there when that startup was formed, and it is there now that company has become, in a short space of time, a global entity like Google, for example, and all these other kind of tech brands, Airbnb and so on. And I think that because it's embraced at a top level, that they know that what they are doing is either making sense of the new, creating newfound desire, or these leaders are saying, well, we've been around for some time, but we now need to sustain desire for our brands. It's no good to just own this time and space that we're in now and be complacent. We have to innovate. So how do big corporations that are, by definition, sort of risk averse, for fear of losing their share price or just change, how do they find ways to genuinely innovate fast and take risks and not be afraid to fail? These are the companies which will be very successful to sustain desire. And we were talking about Unilever. They're here. One of my clients, one of my brands I work on is Ben & Jerry's, and in many ways it sort of was the first challenger brand that disrupted the way a brand could stand for something, and then it express it through great product and distinctive packaging and identity. It's still alive today, and it's one of the most valuable brands in Unilever's portfolio. And what Unilever does is it understands that we've got these iconic brands, but we need to have a startup mentality. So what does it do? It creates the Unilever Foundry and brings in startups literally into Unilever to infuse that culture with a startup mentality and to help these startups. So it's a community mindset that is brought in to really think about, well, what it is a design strategy to create and sustain more desire. And then the last area that we need to think about is when trust is destroyed by betrayal. A betrayal in an idea, a product, an ethos, maybe in our faith with that brand, and that can manifest itself just through corporate misbehaving, brand lies, society moves on and new attitudes come in and whole sectors leave behind. And so in that case we need to think about how we can increase desire by repairing this kind of betrayal and returning to the truth behind what these brands stand for as a potential way to rebuild this kind of trust. And that act of betrayal is something that Esther has been expert in understanding and saying, once this trust has gone, you need to go through the steps to kind of rebuild that. And that is a design strategy.
That's great. And Esther, can you talk about some of those steps for maybe moving from desirability to trust and loyalty, or for those that already have the trust and loyalty, for kind of maintaining that, pushing forward with so much disruption going on? I think it's a very important aspect.
I mean, you can't fool me. You can't fool me anymore as a brand, because within a few minutes the whole world will post it, and if you have deceived me, everybody will know. So yes, today with social media you can cheat more than ever before, but it's much harder to hide than ever before. So you have a different level of accountability. I think relationship accountability is essential to the construct of desire. So first of all, when I trust you, what do I feel? I feel you have my back. I feel that I matter. I feel that you're thinking about me when you're doing this design. I feel that you sincerely care about me, that you're not just trying to pull one over me, you're not just manipulating me, because I have had that enough with all the other authorities that I no longer believe in, and I'm not so sure that I want to believe in you. So you really have to prove to me that you are authentic, and your authenticity means that you really care about me, that there is kindness coming my way, and that you're not going to do anything purposefully behind my back to deceive me, to lie to me, to betray me, and to make me feel that I was wrong in trusting you. Once I have that trust, if it is betrayed, it can be repaired, but it demands, first of all, basically what we know from relationship repair. One is you have to acknowledge your wrongdoing. State the facts. Just acknowledge it. Don't justify, don't explain, don't give me two people in the room where just doing wrong code, and blame somebody else. Own it. The second thing is, once you've told me what you've done, now you need to tell me what it's done to me. So recognize how it upset me, how it betrayed my trust, how my loyalty, my faith, the fact that for 20 years I've been wearing just your items. I've been a loyal devotee of your brand. And the third one is the creative repair. And the creative repair is about you're proving to me that you really care, that I matter, that I'm not diminished, that you value me, and you're doing tangential, concrete steps that let me know that you are really holding me in your mind. From that place, I may get my trust back. And once I have my trust back, I may once again experience desire. What do I need for desire? I need to feel free, to explore, to be playful, to be unself-conscious, meaning desire is the opposite of vigilance. If I'm watching out to see, are you going to lie to me, cheat to me, betray me, pull one over me, then I cannot be in desire. In desire, the trust has to be a given. I don't have to worry about, are you there for me? I know you are, now I can go play. Every child knows it in relation to the parents, and every consumer knows it in relation to the brand.
That's great. So Jonathan, then what are some of the technologies that allow brands and businesses to communicate that kind of, shall we say, personalization, feeling of security? Privacy is a big concept here as well, I think, and just trust, really. Just the way Esther was talking about it is already so emotional. I think that some people don't think about branding that way. Yeah. But I think that there are some really great technologies that are working to push this concept forward, this concept that you guys have come here to talk about.
Well, I would say any technology that creates a positive experience is a worthwhile technology. But what I would say, it doesn't necessarily have to define itself as a product in the hand. I think actually the technologies which are making way now and will be the most powerful in the future will be the invisible technologies, which will enable us to have these fantastic experiences. So we've already mentioned, think about brands like Uber and Airbnb and brands like that. How do they work? Well, does it matter? No, it doesn't, because what we really want to know is, will it work, and will it give me a great experience when I get to this house that I'm going to be staying at, and will I be having a beautiful experience as a result of it? That's why these brands are kind of like becoming the huge behemoths of the future. You look at brands like Vice, for example, which has transformed itself from a print brand into an online media channel. That's a tech brand. Refinery 29, that's a tech brand. But I don't think consumers walk around saying that's my favorite tech brand, and that's look at the cool technology behind that. Because actually what they're getting out of it is their connections. Vice and Refinery 29 are providing things with people what they really want and desire in life, and they're creating huge loyalty, advocacy, passion, love, desire, and those channels are continually pumping out the kind of stuff which re-engages with your audience. So anything that makes things better is, I think, as I said at the beginning of this, a definition of design. And I'm a designer of brands, and I think, although Esther would not describe it this way, I think she is a designer of successful and desirable relationships, and that's why I think design is probably one of the most important things we should be thinking about in this environment of change, and just recognise how much Cannes has changed over the years, and advertising communication has shifted, the design is a constant, and that's because in our lives we can design to make things better.
But Jonathan just said something that I hadn't even thought about before, is that design is an intensely interactive experience in which reciprocity and interdependence are highly dynamic. And when you design, you are intentional, you are willful, you are conscious, and you are open to chance and to the unknown and to the mystery that suddenly will pop. And I can't describe relationships any differently. I think it's the same. A relationship that thrives today is a relationship where people are willfully, consciously, intentionally investing, engaging, not letting it just not be dead, but maintaining it alive. Desire is about owning the wanting. When you desire, you are in your freedom. You can force people, in my realm of relationships, you can force people to be in a relationship, but you can never force them to want it. Wanting is sovereignty, it's freedom. And in that sense, desire is this ultimate experience of freedom. And it's the one that makes you come back all the time for more. And that experience of aliveness that everyone talks about when they experience desire, or sometimes we call it passion, I think aliveness is more existential and more all-encompassing. The brands that know how to cultivate that aliveness are the brands that understand the erotics of the erotics of branding. And in that sense, they have understood something about the intricacies of desire.
I love how passionate she is about it. I think that we've talked quite a bit about the qualitative aspects, but I think my last two questions are going to be a little bit about the quantitative. So first of all, Esther, I want to ask you, is there a limit? Is there a limit to how much or how many we can desire in the realm of branding?
It's a great question. Yes, probably there is. And I do think that in a way the paradox of choice is telling us 2 choices, 3 choices makes us feel that we have an abundance. 10 choices makes us constantly wonder, how do I know? And what if I'm wrong? And how can I feel significant? And I think it's the same on the side of the brands. How can a brand feel significant today when there are 10 others saying and trying to do the same thing? And is it really the same thing? But on the other end, when you think novelists have written novels on the same subjects forever, and yet the greatest novels stood out as different from the others. And a novelist today will still write a novel with the hope that the one that they will write will capture your imagination and make you want to stay and maybe even read it again. So, do I think that there's a lot of noise? Yes. Do I think that sometimes people should go unplugged? Yes, in relationships for sure. But I also think that somehow nobody seems to want to go back. I sometimes thought we used to have religion, and religion governed our sense of time, and religion through its saints created a whole relationship with brands. Every one of these saints had a meaning, had an imagination, had a narrative, had a story. The brands of today are the new saints, but at the same time, if you compare it to divorce, to marriage, to long-term relationships, which we know half of the time don't last. And it's not because they don't last that they failed, but let's say they didn't fulfill their dream. Mm-hmm. Would you buy a brand that fails 50% of the time? If Apple sold you a goods that fails 50% of the time, it's not sure you would buy it. But we still engage in relationships. We still marry, even though we know the outcome. So the outcome doesn't seem to deter us from our most intense, ingrained dreams.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain level of risk there as well that needs to be taken, which would be interesting then for clients when you've had that discussion and you've started going on this journey. How then can you measure the desirability that you've created for them to say, you went on that risk and you went against all of the others, but look at what you got out of it.
Well, I think there's all sorts of ways to measure desire. Share price is one of them. How brands are valued on share, on asset value sheets and in annual reports. There are various agency indexes. There's all sorts of kind of surveys that talk about brand value and brand love, and you can look at all of these. But ultimately, you've got to look at some of the most successful kind of organizations around the world that have either been here for, decades, like Chanel, or kind of just here in the last decade, Google, for example. And one of my favorite brands is Waitrose in the UK, a supermarket which is not the biggest, but it's the most desired. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? And if you've ever been into a Waitrose and shopped there, you can clearly see that there are simple things like the store is designed to be clutter-free. The aisles are designed to be a little bit wider so you can see product rather than promotional messages. The products themselves are beautifully designed. And if you can't find something, you ask somebody, you know, where is the kind of the pesto sauce or the cheese that you're looking for, and they'll say, certainly come with me and let me show you where it is. They'll take you to it, give it to you, and then they'll say, is there anything else I can do to you? And that is a designed experience. They've been educated that is the right way to create a bond with their consumers. So why do we desire Waitrose so much? Because everything about it is just a beautiful experience, and then
that makes you feel that you matter.
And makes you feel like you matter. So they've put, as you were saying just now, Esther, they have put you first. And then the last thing I'd say is there's another way of measuring it, which is technology can be used now in very clever ways to not just measure how your brand is desired on a kind of like an annual scale, but immediately. So take Graze, for example, the healthy snack business which sends healthy snacks through your door. You can subscribe to it, and, you know, it's kind of the Amazon of like healthy snacking. And some really amazing things that they do, and this goes back to your tech question. They can have an idea for a new product on Monday. By Monday evening, they have uploaded that idea to their ordering system, and by Tuesday morning, you are interacting. You are making your order. The next day, it arrives in your home. Now imagine that at scale, because that's what's happening. By Wednesday morning, they know if they've got a desirable new product or not. And so they can find out within 48 hours just how desired their innovation is within their brand. And if it's successful, what are they doing? Of course, they are, you know, propagating it further and further and further. And so they are measuring desire on a daily basis. And I think that's kind of where, you know, the future is. Think new ways and intimate ways where it's coming directly from the individual that you are, you know, offering your brand to, who's giving you immediate feedback about just how much they like what you're doing for them.
Which is truly ideal, I think, at the end of it all. So I have to thank you guys really for sitting down with us and letting us kind of peek into what you spoke about here at Cannes and what work you guys are focusing on now. So that was Esther Perel and Jonathan Ford talking about the erotics of branding. And again, I'm Flavia Barbat, and please check out our Cannes issue from this year to see more great thought leaders and some of the work that they're focusing on. Bye, guys.
Thank you very much.